really helpful or whatever, leave. So tonight we're going to talk about one of my favorite topics, alignment and the power of alignment. This is obviously going to be a shallow dive because it's a big topic. So I'm going to do the best I can in about half an hour, and then people can ask questions, people can share experiences, whatever you want. So please bear in mind that I can't necessarily see you while I'm talking because I'm looking at my presentation. My intention, as it always is on these talks, is if I help one person tonight, I will be happy. If I help all of you in some way, I will be ecstatic. So, if this is stuff that you've heard before, please just trust that you need to hear it again for whatever reason. So most of you know me, but I'm a mother of two. I've got two kids. My youngest just finished university today, so I'm really excited about that. Literally this afternoon. I'm a qualified teacher of the deaf. I'm a singer and songwriter. I'm over 60. I've done had tons of psychotherapy. I've had tons of coaching. I've been a Buddhist leader for over 30 years. I'm a qualified coach. I have previously specialized in divorce, dating, and relationships. I have a passion for personal development. I love it. I can't get enough of it. And I hope that I can ignite that in you. And I've always invested in my own development, and it has absolutely rewarded me in every way you can imagine, both in terms of feeling great, also financially. So it's a really good investment. And what I find is that the more you grow, the more you want to grow. So when we talk about coaching, as opposed to something like psychotherapy, coaching often starts with your vision. And for me, my vision has evolved over time, as I would hope for you as well. And I would say that an integral part of your vision is, or should be, your core values. Because what happens is, if you align your vision with your core values, it just makes life flow that much more beautifully. So it's about aligning your vision with your identity and your direction. So when I was preparing this, I decided I would start with a definition of alignment. And alignment, as the dictionary says, is arrangement in a straight line. So I like to think of this as the fastest point from A to B. So who do you want to be, and what values are going to serve you best in order to become the person you were born to be? In other words, the highest version of yourself. So one of my first principles is that alignment is the coherence of your values, your vision, your behavior, your actions, and how you want to feel. Okay. So I'm just checking to see if anyone else is coming in the room here. You know when these are lined up because you know how it feels, as I said on my Facebook post earlier today. So when you're in alignment, it just feels right. It just feels great. So your actions, if you think about your actions on a day-to-day basis, are your actions in line with your values? It's a great question to ask yourself on a moment-by-moment basis. Are your actions in line with your vision? This is about joining the dots, okay? I think sometimes we can get swept up in the current of our daily life and not really, and get thrown off course, and that's natural, but this should give you a real compass point to return to. So again, this is about becoming the person you want to become. And by the way, I'm aware that a lot of people on this call are over 50. Now, that's not something you have to do when you're young. I started quite late. I started after I got divorced. I started to really think about, what do I want? So, are your words in line? Are your thoughts in line? And then when we talk about our own core values, I would also say that there are universal values which we ignore at our peril. So what you sow is what you reap, ultimately. And in my opinion, given that life is relatively short, I'm sure you'd rather reap the good stuff. So test it out for yourself. See, see what happens when you start to really reflect on what those values are. So this is about being honest with yourself, taking responsibility, thinking about yourself and others. And for me, and this is a spiritual belief, it's about the sanctity of life. It's precious. Life is a treasure. So it can be a spiritual thing, it can be a religious thing, or it can be a practical thing, your core values. However you want to frame it, it's really valuable to reflect on this. So to put this more simply, are the small choices you're making on a daily basis taking you closer to or farther from where you ultimately want to go? And as I said before, closer to the vision, in line with your core values. So I'm going to ask you a question, and I'd like you to just put some ideas in the chat box. 1 or 2 words for you, what you think all people are seeking. What are all people seeking? Happiness, happiness, purpose. Nice. Fulfillment. Beautiful. Fulfillment, fulfillment. Yep. Purpose, freedom, connection. Absolutely. Acceptance. Beautiful. Stability. Very interesting. Yep. This is great. Contentment, peace of mind. Good, good, good. Thank you. So all people, I don't think anyone, easiness. Oh, easiness. That's really interesting. Yeah, at times we're seeking easiness. At times we might be seeking challenge. So it's interesting. So, I would say that these are things we share. I don't think anyone would argue that pretty much everything you've all said is universal. They're universal human needs. So Tony Robbins has done a really good job of distilling this. And he talks about the 6 human needs. And I'm going to briefly go over those. And then we're going to, a bit later in the talk, we're going to go through how these might line up with your core values, what your core values are. And you are going to get an opportunity to have a really brief look at your own. So the first is certainty. So that's the assurance that you can avoid pain and gain pleasure. So when Lisa said easiness, that really kind of fits into the certainty mold of security, certainty, knowing what's happening, knowing where you're going to be, knowing what's next, knowing you have a roof over your head, knowing you have food on the table, that kind of thing. And then ironically, and I might just put these in the chat so you can see them, because it's a lot. I'm not a PowerPoint girl, so I'm just putting them up here. The next is variety, which is ironic, isn't it? Because we just talked about certainty. So the need for the unknown, the need for change, the need for new stimuli. And that's why I responded when easiness was mentioned. Like, I really like a challenge. If it's too easy, I get bored. But I think we have a need for both, don't we? If we go into a long-term relationship, one of the reasons we like to have that is to have that certainty. But people don't always stay in long-term relationships because of the need for variety. Then we have the need for significance. I have quite a strong need for significance. I'm not going to lie. The idea that you feel unique, important, special, or needed. I think you can see this really, like if you're the sort of person who's always putting their hand up in the front of the classroom. And I would say that that's one of my qualities, and also something I suffer from, is the need for significance. And then connection and love, a strong feeling of closeness or union with someone or something, the need to connect. And one of the things I love about the Elite Mentorship Forum is there is, which we talked about earlier, is this real feeling of connection with lots of people, and always that there is someone there who's going to connect with you, lift you up, support you, and encourage you. So those are the needs of the personality, but we also have the two needs of the spirit. And these are really super powerful. So growth is the first one. And that's an expansion of capacity, capability, or understanding. That's what you're doing on here. I hope you're here with the desire to grow. It is, if you want to have a happy life, to hook yourself onto growth and contribution is really, really critical. Without growth and contribution, I don't believe, and all of the great mentors I've worked with, we all know that growth and contribution is the thing that really creates a beautiful life. So contribution would be a sense of service and focus on helping, giving to, and supporting others. And of course, for me as a coach and trainer, that's what I absolutely love about what I do, is that feeling that I can make a difference to someone's life. And so, you know, if I'm on a phone call, and even as someone who works for Peter Sage, who's, well, some of you won't know this, but I work for a coach called Peter Sage. And if someone decides to join one of the courses, I get really excited because I know it's going to change their life. So to give you an example of using the 6 human needs, I'll just give you an example of me. Certainty for me is a roof over my head and adequate money. Variety would be new friends, new experiences. Experiences are really, really big for me. I have more of a need for experience than I do for things, but you might be different. You might prefer a diamond ring over a trip to the Algarve, you know, or whatever it is. Of course, you can have both if you want, but, you know, that's what floats my boat. So that's the sort of variety part of the piece. If you think of teenagers are a great example of, they really love variety too. Significance. What's the role I'm uniquely suited to? How can I make a difference? These talks, are they making a difference? Then you have connection, and that for me, that would be family, close friends, clients. Having a significant other would be an example of connection. Growth for me is personal growth. So this arena that we're talking about, and I have a really strong spiritual practice of more than 30 years. So that's a big, big part of my life, really important. And then contribution. I mean, I've been really lucky. All the work I've ever done involves contribution of one form or of another, whether I was a teacher of the deaf or a coach, or, you know, building a business and building a team. And I made these choices and they aligned with my values. So that's really important. I'm here to serve. So, I just was looking because someone else wants to come in. Here we go. Tony's coming in. Right. So those are the 6 human needs. Those are core needs, but how you get them met is up to you. So if you have a little think about that, you know, does that make sense? Just type yes in the chat box if it makes sense. Type no in the chat box if it doesn't, and then I'll have to dig a little deeper, which is fine. So those are the human needs. But what are your, thank you for those yeses. Thank you. That's great. So, yeah. So what are your personal core values? And that's going to be a really interesting question. And we're going to talk about that. I'm going to probably I am going to take you through a very short meditation so you can think, you can really not just think with your head. It's about what's important to you, and we're all different. So as I said, when you're making choices in your life, do they line up with your core values? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to share my screen, and I'm going to find a little list I prepared earlier. No, I'm not. Okay, here we go. See, this is good because it gives you a chance to breathe. There we are. Okay. So these are a snapshot of many, many, many core values you might choose. They may be the ones for you, they may not. But as you look at it, I'm sure some things will resonate more than others. And it's a list to guide or validate your decisions about work, about your love life, about how you spend your time, about how you take care of yourself, about how you choose your friends. And I'm going to ask you 2 key questions about these. And as I say, we will think about these a little bit more in a minute. I'm just putting them on the screen. It's like a snapshot. And there are 2 quick key questions. One is, what needs to happen for you to feel these needs are met, these core values are met? And how does the choice you're considering in your work, your relationship, your family line up with your core values? So if your core value is adventure and you stay home all day, that's not really it's not going to line up very well. If friendship is one of your core values, but you never make any efforts to go out, that's not going to work. So the more, this is principle 2, the more you make choices that are misaligned with your core values, the farther you will be moving from joy. Okay, so I'm going to ask you to think in terms of 4. I know that's not very many. The temptation is to do more, but I'm going to ask you to choose 4 because it's easier to keep 4 in mind. So I'll give you an example again of myself, and then we'll do a short meditation. And you can think about yours and hopefully come away with something concrete. So I found it difficult to choose 4, like anyone would, but mine are integrity, authenticity, connectedness, and learning. So now everyone has a different definition of these words. So you can say integrity to 3 people in a room and they might have slightly different definitions. So for me, that means staying true to what I said I would do, being honest, being a person of my word. And also for me, integrity means no trash talk about people. That's huge for me. I don't like it. I don't like hearing people do it, and I don't like doing it. Now, I'm not perfect. I'm not an angel. Sometimes my ego gets the better of me, but that's what integrity means to me. So I'll give you an example. I had a friend who had a boyfriend. I hadn't known him very long. They came over and they wanted a signature for his passport that I'd known him for 5 years. And I hadn't known him for 5 years. And I had to say, no, I'm sorry, I'm not going to do that, because I had to balance my need to please others with my integrity. And for me, the integrity bit of the piece was paramount. Now that's me. It may not be you. And I'm not here to make a judgment on what you choose. So that's an example. The second one for me is authenticity. And this is a challenging one because for me, it means being real. And I do struggle with this at times. I still have a very strong people pleaser streak. I was going to, on the presentation, I wrote a hint of the people pleaser, but that's not true. The more deeply I go into personal relationships, the more I realize in such subtle ways that can really derail me, wanting to be liked. So which is more important, being real or being liked? And I think for most people, being liked often trumps authenticity. But if your core value is authenticity, the more I step into that, the better I'm going to feel. And it's kind of close to integrity, isn't it? So it's about feeling confident in my own skin. And I'm moving closer to this all the time. So to give you another example, in my previous job as an advisory teacher, there were lots of rules. And I like being fun and jokey and creative. And so I didn't fit very well into that structure. So I'm not going to go into a big team meeting and be all solemn, because that doesn't feel right to me. It doesn't mean I want to be antisocial or want to go in and be disruptive. Although if I think it's appropriate to be disruptive and be creative and that it will help everyone in the room, then I will. But so my need for authenticity, my need to be me, my need to be playful, my need to be a magician is stronger than my need to toe the line. And this will always come out over time in any situation I'm in. It's very hard for me to keep that under wraps. So the third one for me is connectedness, and that's about having deep conversations, having very few close friends on my level, with the same humor, the same values. And I'm always looking for that connectedness. How can I connect more deeply? I'm not really someone who will go into a big party and love it. I'd rather be sitting across a table with one person having a deep conversation. But for other people, going to a party is going to be more important than, being liked is more important. Then we've got learning. And so I always feel I'm at my best when I'm pushing to learn new things. Even in the process of preparing this, it gave me the opportunity to dig deeper. So I love that. And for that reason, I've had 4 different careers and I've done all of them well. I've been really fortunate. And so then I have the subsidiary values, creativity, fun, and adventure. And those are a big part of my personality, but they're not my core values. So before we do a little exercise for you to deeply reflect on your core values, I want to talk briefly about the dangers of not doing so. So I'll give you an example. One of the benefits of age is that I think we get more comfortable in our own skin. So as a creative, authenticity is a really important thing. And it's important because you can't be truly artistic without being true to yourself. So I'm not someone who's going to emulate. I'm someone who's going to create. Because if I emulate, I become an inferior version. So authenticity is super important, being my own person. But there was a time when I didn't do this. And this is very personal, but it was basically when I got married. I was married for 20 years. I wasn't sure my husband would like me as I was, so I tried to mold my personality to suit him. And I know this is the oldest story in the world. So many people do this. I didn't like cooking and I was quite sociable and friendly. So imagine when he said, "You do the cooking, look after the kids, and I don't want your friends coming to stay overnight from America." And rather than be authentic, I said, "Sure, that's fine. I'll play the role you want me to play. I'll cook. I'll be housewife. I won't stay for drinks at the tennis club after I've played tennis, having a laugh and enjoying friendship." So how do you think that one worked out? Not very well. So that's just one example, and I'm sure you all have examples too, of why it's helpful to become familiar with your core values. This will help you become the truest version of yourselves. So it will help you simplify your life and focus your energy. So how can you spend more time and energy on activities that honor your values and less time on things that conflict with them? So being aware of your core values can also help you identify when something is not quite right in your work or your life. When something doesn't feel right for you, look at your core values and see why you're uncomfortable. It's really interesting. So for example, if fairness is one of your core values and you work in an environment which is hierarchical, might not be a good fit. If authority is important to you, in other words, being the authority on something, you might not work so well in a collaborative environment like an orchestra if you have to be in charge. If contribution is a core value for you, you might find it difficult to work again in a cutthroat environment. Or you might want to look at ways to shift the culture of your company if contribution is a core value. So the point being that if you sit there and swallow a situation that doesn't chime with your core values, you will not live your full potential, and it will make you unhappy. And as I say, this is not just in work, it's in relationships. It's, even health, your family life, all those things. So I'm going to get you to do an exercise now. And I hope that you have a pen and a piece of paper. But before you do that, I'm going to take you through a very short meditation. So I want you to sit in your chair and get centered. Take a deep breath, close your eyes. Feet on the floor. Feel the earth, feel yourself connecting with the earth. And take deep breaths, allowing your system to slow down. You're giving yourself permission to allow whatever arises in the moment to just be, not trying to control anything. You're just breathing. And you're going to listen to your whole self and connect to the wisest, most authentic part of you, your internal voice. And notice where that space for the wise inner voice lives in your body. That's it. Just tap into that part where the wisest part of you is. Allow yourself to trust your intuition as you turn up the volume on the wisest, most authentic part of you. And knowing that your inner voice is guiding you, ask the question: what are my core values? What are the values I choose to live my life by that make me feel like the fullest version of myself? Again, what are the values I choose to live my life by that make me feel like the truest version of myself? What are the values I choose to live my life by that make me feel like the most instinctive and intuitive version of myself? And I'm going to read the list. And I want you to imagine your life in 1 year's time, living by your core values. Listen deeply to whatever is important to you. Adventure, authority, autonomy, balance, beauty, boldness, compassion, challenge, citizenship, community, competency, contribution, creativity, curiosity, determination, fairness, faith, fame, friendships, fun, growth, happiness, honesty, humor, influence, inner harmony, justice, kindness, knowledge, leadership, learning, love, loyalty, meaningful work, openness, optimism, peace, pleasure, poise, popularity, recognition, religion, reputation, respect, responsibility, security, self-respect, service, spirituality, stability, success, status, trustworthiness, wealth, wisdom. So you may have resonated with more than one, and that's okay. So listen deeply to whatever's important to you. What are you noticing in your body when you embrace those core values? How are you moving in the world in the future version of you? How are you meeting those who need you? How are you speaking to yourself? How are you feeling about yourself? How are you feeling in 1 year's time as you are creating what it is you want, perfectly in line, in alignment with those values? What are the sensations, the smells, the tastes, the sounds? See yourself. What do you look like? What are you doing? You have the right. You are meant to be here. Notice your energy. What's it like when you choose to live true to those values? So in a minute, I'm going to ask you to open your eyes. Just take a few deep breaths now. Open your eyes in your own time. And please write down your 4. Don't worry about getting it right. Just write down whatever came to you. See how they feel. Check in. Then see if where you are right now is the right fit for you. The right place, the right relationship, the right job. If not, are they congruent with your vision? In other words, are you living in alignment with what your values are? So after the call is over, now that you've identified those values, I want you to go away and write the vision or adapt the vision. Spend an hour writing it down if you can. So step 1 is to start describing what your life is going to look and feel like. And step 2 will be to decide on one action you're going to take to move yourself in that direction. So if you try and think of everything, you'll get overwhelmed. Just think of one action you're going to take. So the most important thing I said was earlier in this conversation, in this presentation, I said that if you go against the principles of the universe, you can't live a happy, fulfilled life. And so it would be irresponsible of me not to say at the end of this and I think probably everyone on the call knows that if you think it's okay to lie, cheat, trash talk, steal, and so on, just be aware these make an imprint on your life. When we fall out of alignment with universal principles, this is obviously my belief, and I think it's probably for you, many of your belief as well, for many of you. Your conscious mind will make up justifications, but your inner life knows. So you think you can fool yourself, but your inner life knows, your subconscious knows. And this is perhaps the biggest factor in alignment with the universe, knowing what is right, not only for you, but also in relation to others. Because on the deepest level, you destroy the palace that exists in your heart. And that is the most powerful place to live. So that's it for my part of the presentation. It went on a little bit longer than I meant for it to. But I'm going to stop the recording in case anyone has questions.